Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of Turning Readers into Writers with me, your host, Emma Dhesi. Welcome, so good to have you here. Today I wanted to talk about the 3 reasons why you need to have community, why a writing community is so important. Now, quite often when we think about community, we think, or at least I do, when I think about community, I think about kind of a big group of people. I think of it as being, in fact, I envisage like a room full of people. If we were to do this in real life, it'd be a room full of people. But community doesn't need to be like that. If you're like me and that's the sort of vision that comes to you, I've learned that writing community doesn't need to be as big as that. It actually can be very small. And it can even be a number of small communities where there's just 2 or 3 people in that community. So you are one of them and you have a community with a certain number of friends, and then you have another community with a few other friends, and you have a third community with another group of friends. And each of those friends are all writers, they're all involved in the writing world, but they all help you in different ways. So some of it might be to do with one group might be there to help you with motivation and stay persistent with your writing and to keep motivated. Another group might be really great for the practical side of reading your pages and offering constructive feedback. And these are people who you trust and who are writing in the same genre as you. And when they feed back to you, you take it as it's intended and as it's meant to be, as a way of helping you. But perhaps you have another community, but that is more to do with, sort of technical things or marketing, that side of things, the sort of business side of being a writer. So community can come in those little small groups, but equally it can also be in one of those sort of big Facebook groups, or it can be in a private community. A lot of people are taking their communities sort of off of Facebook and into places like Circle, which which can host a group of people, or Slack is another one, and there's another one called Mighty Networks that I know that people are moving to. So there's lots of different sort of online communities that are off of social media, or a closed group of like-minded people, but more than the sort of 2 or 3 smaller group that I was just talking about a moment ago. And of course, there's the in-person group. If you're lucky enough to live somewhere where there is a really good writing group or critique group, and you get on with each other and you're all pretty much like-minded, when that comes together and that works, that is amazing. If you don't already have it, I do recommend that you get a copy of Launchpad, The Countdown to Writing Your Book, because in that there's a wonderful chapter from Linda Rosen about how to write, how to find a good critique group, a good writing group that will suit you and your needs. So I recommend that. I will put the link in the show notes. So there's different types of community. So if you live somewhere where there is an in-person one, that is fantastic too, particularly if it really does, the community members do resonate with you. So why is it important to have this community? Well, I think there are 3 main reasons. The first one is basic kind of craft advice, craft suggestions, that idea of being able to talk through something new that you've read. Maybe you've read a new book and there's some ideas in there that you like and you want to talk them through with your colleagues in the group, your group members, then that can be a great place to do that. And so you can assess, okay, is this something I want to bring into my writing, or actually does it not fit my style and what I'm doing? So sharing ideas and thoughts on craft, that can be a great one. And of course, craft in a more practical way. So if you are submitting pieces into the group for people to read, then sharing ideas about craft and what works and what doesn't, and ideas to try. Because of course, we're not telling people how to write. We're sharing what we've learned and making suggestions that people can try. then getting that support for the craft is really invaluable. And I know from my own experiences and the experiences of my students who are in critique groups and writing groups, that often someone can say something that you've heard it before and you kind of know it, but they say it in a new way, or they serve as the reminder of something that you knew but had forgotten about. And you can see how that bit of craft can now be really well applied to the piece that you are writing. So that is a great way to do it. And of course, you learn from reading other people's work as well, don't you? When you're reading and critiquing somebody else's work, of course, your work and your abilities are always in the back of your mind as well. And thinking about, okay, would I write it like this? How might I change it? What I admire about the piece that I'm reading, and what I think really works. And so you, what's the word I'm looking for? You embody those in a way, you ingest those ideas and those suggestions and those observations, so that when you go back to your writing, you can then incorporate these new things into your writing. So it's a great way to level up your craft when you find a good community that works for you. And when it comes to critiquing, especially if you find a community who you trust and the critique is given in the best spirit, and is there as suggestion and not as you should do it this way because that's the way I would do it. So there's always a little caveat with writing groups. The second really valuable thing a writing community can do for you is offer emotional support. And let's not underestimate this. And this is for all genders of writers. Everybody needs emotional support with their writing, because we all are investing a good chunk of ourselves in our book, and the sort of ideas that come to us feel so personal, even if the ideas expressed in a book are not necessarily our own. They are that of the character, but it can feel like we are laying ourselves bare on the table through our fiction. And we're very conscious of the fact that other people are reading our work. They can hear our voice. They know us. What are they thinking about that? Are they thinking that this is what we as an individual think, rather than this is what the character thinks? And there's a lot of emotion tied up in that, isn't there? That worry about what are people going to think? Are they going to like it? Am I any good? Can I do this? Should I keep going? Or should I give up and go back to my day job? All of these things go through our heads. And having the emotional support there from our fellow writers who understand the sensitivity around this and how emotive it can be to write. They understand it, where people who are not writers or not creators, they don't get it. And, they might do their best to empathise and be sympathetic with us, but they don't kind of get it, do they? They don't really understand why these imaginary people mean so much to you and why what happens to them matters to you. But there's that level of emotion too, but on the other side there is the emotion of the ups and downs of being an author. So outside of the written work itself, it's that maybe you are submitting to magazines, you're putting short stories out there and not getting anywhere. Oh, that's heartbreaking. And you might be thinking, well, should I carry on? I've had 10 rejections in a row. This story, no one seems to want to buy this story. Maybe I should just give up and not pursue this anymore. And if you do that, then you've got, these other authors who are sort of coming around, they're rallying around you, reminding you of the good work that you've done, reminding you that it's a numbers game, reminding you that editors are human and it might not be right for them today because they're having a bad day, but if you'd sent it in a different day, it would have had a different outcome. If you are querying for an agent and you're just getting those form letters coming through, that's so disheartening, isn't it? Again, that's where your writing community comes in and can offer you just real emotional nourishment to keep you going, reminding you that the game isn't over, reminding you of all of those now famous authors who have been through exactly what you are going through now. So that emotional support, both kind of for on the page stuff and for off-the-page stuff is not to be sniffed at. That's a really, really valuable part of any writing community. The third reason, so just to recap, we've got the craft side of it, that communities can offer just help and guidance and suggestions around craft and how to make your book that little bit better and closer to the finished story that you want it to be. It's also great for the emotional support. So the emotional support around the actual writing of the novel, which we all know is a roller coaster. There are days where you love what you're writing and what you're doing. And then there are other days where you absolutely hate it. You wish you'd never started it. You wish you didn't want to be a writer and you just never want to look at the book again. And then flip of a coin, the next day you're back to loving it. It's it's just heady, isn't it? So that emotional support for on the page stuff, and then also the emotional support for off the page stuff. And when you get to that next step of submitting either stories or submitting to agents. And then the third thing, and this is where I'm kind of at right now with my online communities, my writing communities, and what I enjoy is actually this sort of, it's more the business side of it. It's the updates, the professional development side, keeping up with the news of what's going on in publishing and what's going on because I'm an indie author, particularly with the indie space, I'm really interested in what's going on with that. So that might include, if I'm thinking about my students who are looking to traditionally publish, it might include keeping up to date with agents and what's been signed where and who's doing what. But in the indie space, it would be keeping up with, technical changes. So what new platforms are available to help writers? What new features are available on existing platforms? So I can think of things like Draft to Digital, which is a great service for indie authors who want to distribute their books worldwide, their ebooks and their paperbacks. I can think of something like Plotter, some of the structuring softwares out there, what they're always evolving and always developing. So what new has happened there? How are they helping writers? What can they do? Amazon, of course, for every writer is such a big player that knowing what they're up to and what changes they're doing and how they are treating their authors, that's always something to keep abreast of. Seeing what's in the bestsellers, what books are coming up through the bestseller ranks, through word of mouth. I hear from my writing community about what's going on there. So the professional side of it, the kind of wider side of being an author who is a professional, who wants to keep abreast of changes happening in the industry, that is a great way to stay in touch, because of course you can't read everything. You can't read every journal, writing journal. You can't read every new release blog article. We need kind of word of mouth. We need our friends to read these things as well and then surmise it for us and keep us up to date just as we do for them. And of course, AI is a huge thing at the moment. That's that is just having a big impact on people, and a lot of people are freaking out about it. So it's something that's here. We've got to just deal with it as writers. And so I have decided to take the attitude of get to know it, understand it. Can I use it for anything? Can it be useful to me? And so that, again, I see as being part of my professional development, and that's things I'm learning about through the writing community that I'm a part of. So there's lots of different ways that a writing community can benefit you, and I've just given you 3 there: the craft support, the emotional support, and your own professional development. And at the top of the show, I outlined as well, the different types of communities that there are, whether it be in person, whether it be with lots of small groups of just 2 or 3 people, whether it be through large groups with thousands of people, where it's much more of a dip in and out approach, for example, a Facebook group. And then, of course, closed communities that people are hosting privately out with social media. So there's lots of options for you there. And I hope that you've seen, even if you are an introvert, even if you are nervous about being part of a community, and the idea that being in a group with thousands of people just isn't unappealing to you, there are options out there, and you can either go out into the world and meet people in real life, or you have that option to do it online if you are not so much of you prefer being at home, or you don't have community nearby you. There are so many great ways of finding community and people who approach the writing life in a similar way to you, and can help sustain you and motivate you so that you don't give up, and you keep writing, and you keep up leveling, and you keep going. So I hope this has inspired you to go out there and find some community. And if you do, let me know. And of course, don't forget, I have my own community on Facebook as well. And you'll find me over, it's my Facebook page. And if you go to Emma Dhesi Book Coach, you will find me there. So come and say hi. All right, that's me for today. Take care, everyone. I'll see you soon.